there are 5 cultural dimensions that are measured with the competencies of leadership and management, and they're intertwined into the questions. So you don't know where they come through, but there are questions that are specifically asking about 5 areas of culture. And so the tool we developed was then, it can't just be an African tool. It is actually describing from a scientific and theoretical foundations differences in culture and contextual behaviors and how they influence the ultimate result. So our tool has 5 cultural dimensions. It looks at beliefs and value system. It looks at beliefs, traditional, spiritual, and religious beliefs. How do these influence how somebody makes sense of a decision they have to make? What filters are they using in everything they are confronted with? And what filters come from their faith? And you know that is strong in high context cultures. Second, the sense of community. This whole, the sense of being and value of Ubuntu, the sense of collective versus individual. The North is more individualistic because it is about how I can get things done, how I can reach a certain level. And I guess, that's great. That's a promotion. But then look, high context cultures have a value around community. There's something around family, and there's something about the collective. So we then added the dimension of what is the sense of individual versus collective in this environment? Because the more propensity you have towards individualism operating in a high context culture, you have to understand that the relationship between standing out and shining alone is seen differently in the West. In America, I can walk into a meeting, I can showcase, I can show who I am. You come to certain other contexts and cultures, you come in and your ego, it's interpreted and read differently when you shine like that. And so we wanted to make sure that you understand those nuances and those dynamics. Same person in even the same type of meeting, but in a different context, how the room reads them and accepts them. So that is collective in terms of community. The second dimension. The third dimension is looking at loyalty, pre-existing relationships. What is it that exists in high context cultures where when working with people and organizations, your relationship to the person matters, where you know them from. I know you because we come from the same place. I know you because we grew up together, or we know your parents, or we went to school together, or we worked together, or we're from the same tribe. These things actually influence. And so you've got to pay attention to what are those dynamics that are creating different levels of loyalty for a specific group of people, and why are you not accorded that same sort of favor or merit? They're pre-existing ties in those relationships. And then respect is, again, how we treat age, tradition, and culture, how that shows up. And then pride, our sense of achievement, social status. So we layered in those 5 dimensions into how managers and leaders make sense and how those filters affect what they do. And so as a Christian going into certain meetings, I would find that there's some principles or morals or ways of doing things about how to live with people that come from my faith that I bring into how I'm managing the team. And then I have to think about the organization has its own values also. So whose values am I pushing? Am I pushing you towards my Christian values? Or am I looking at the context of the building I'm in, the organization, its values, and which hat am I wearing? So it's something I've had to learn myself to not neglect or remove my own values, but understand how do I create space for them and still deliver and align with what the organization is asking me to do. That's what we've done.
Yeah.
Layered in those filters into the questions you should be asking in a high context culture.